The British Empire was the largest empire the world has ever seen, controlling at its peak in 1922 both a quarter of the world's landmass and a quarter of the world's population. Having an absolutely colossal land area of 35 million square kilometers or 13 million square miles, an area almost the same size as the surface of the moon. A commonly heard phrase at the time was "the sun never sets on the British Empire." This was because the sun was always shining on at least one British territory. However, what a lot of people don't know is that this phrase still rings true today. See, it's commonly believed that the British Empire came to an end several decades ago, usually with the handover of Hong Kong to China in 1997. However, this isn't really the case, with it being much more accurate to say the British Empire more so downsized rather than ceased to exist entirely, with the UK still to this day controlling 14 overseas territories formerly known as Crown colonies scattered throughout the globe as the last remaining remnants of its once vast empire. While most of them are pretty small, both in terms of land area and population, with the largest of the territories, excluding Britain's claim to Antarctica, the Falkland Islands being slightly larger than Jamaica, and the most populous of them, the Cayman Islands, having a population of 88,000 people. Despite their small size, however, a few of them are still pretty important, with the territory of Gibraltar on Spain's southern coast giving the UK control of the western entrance to the Mediterranean. Akatori and Dekelia on the island of Cyprus being where the RAF launches its military operations in the Middle East from, and Bermuda and the Cayman Islands serving as some of the most important global financial centres on the planet, mostly because of their offshore tax haven status. Anyway, because of how spread across the globe these territories are, to this day the sun is still always shining on at least one British territory. Meaning as of the writing of this video, on October 14th, 2024, the sun still hasn't set on the British Empire. This will all be changing in a few months, however, as the UK will soon be handing over one of these territories, the Caicos Islands or British Indian Ocean Territory, over to Mauritius. This means on whatever day the handover happens. Then after the sun sets on the Pitcairn Islands, the westernmost British overseas territory at about 2:46 AM UK time, the sun will no longer be shining on any British territory. Meaning for the first time in well over 200 years, the sun will have finally set on the British Empire. The reason the UK is handing the Caicos Islands over to Mauritius are pretty complicated, but to summarise them as quickly as possible. The Caicos Islands were originally governed as part of the British colony of Mauritius. However, when Britain granted Mauritius its independence in 1968, the UK kept a hold of the Caicos Islands, in order to build an American military base on the islands, expelling the entire civilian population of the Caicos Islands to Mauritius and the Seychelles in order for this military base to be built. Since the 80s, the government of Mauritius has been trying to get the islands back, insisting that the UK illegally forced them to give up the Caicos Islands in order to gain their independence. The UK had been ignoring the Mauritian claim to the islands for decades up until 2019 when the UN passed a resolution calling for the islands to be returned to Mauritius, followed by an international court case in 2021 which again ruled the islands should be given back to Mauritius. This led to 2 years of negotiations starting in 2022, which eventually led to the UK agreeing to hand the islands back to Mauritius in exchange for the military base on the islands being allowed to continue operating by March 25th, 2025. Those who were expelled from the Caicos Islands in the 70s will also be allowed to return to most of the islands, although the main island, Diego Garcia, will still be off limits to them as it is where the joint UK-US military base is located. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on this undoubtedly end of an era situation? Comment your opinion.